What an amazing event, bringing the entire world together, and bringing 48 speakers to all talk on one topic, and yet each come out with something completely different. It's an amazing thing. Although coming straight from Pesach, I guess it shouldn't be so amazing. One of the heroes of Pesach is that we spend 8 days eating 3 meals a day, or maybe 2, all made from the exact same ingredients, and yet each meal comes out different, completely new experience. So if that's true of egg and potatoes, so Kal v'chomer, words of Torah, can come out Shivim Panim, 600,000 ways, infinite ways of the same words. Here we are, all for bringing on the same words of the Rebbe, a few lines that he said on 28th of Nisan, Chof Ches Nissas, 30 years ago, when he said the words that were daunting and at the same time empowering. I've done all I can, the Rebbe said. All that I can do is give it over to you. Do all you can to bring Moshiach, the Poel, immediately. The Rebbe said about Chof Ches Nissas that it's a Yom Zakai. It's a powerful date. There's a spiritual power to the date itself. Meaning even before the Rebbe said these words on the day was powerful. It had an innate power to itself, which is perhaps why the Rebbe chose that date to say this very powerful and dramatic message. So I came across a possible fascinating reason why Chof Ches Nissas is itself a especially powerful day, and particularly connected to the coming of Moshiach. There's a Sefer Meiser Akeach, written by Rebbe Elazar Akeach of Amsterdam. It's a pirush on the Mishnah, Al Pi Kabbalah. And in his pirush on Maseches Psachim, right at the beginning of Psachim, he asks an interesting question. Why is the Masechta called Psachim in plural? Pesach, Psachim. It should be called Maseches Pesach. Like we find other Masechtas, there's Maseches Sukkah, not Sukkos. There's Maseches Megillah, not Megillos. Shabbos, not Shabbosos. Why is it Maseches Psachim? So he quotes a fascinating Tikkunei Zohar, Tikkun Chaf Aleph, where it says that when Moshiach comes, Pesach is going to be extended. Not just 1 week of Pesach, there's going to be 2 weeks of Pesach when Moshiach comes. The Tikkunei Zohar says that the first week of Pesach will be to celebrate going out of Golus Mitzrayim, and the second week of Pesach will be to celebrate going out of this Golus. And so this is hinted at in the name of the Masechta. It's called Psachim, Pesachs, because it's like a tefillah that we shouldn't just have one Pesach, we should have 2 Pesachs. What a dream that we should have two weeks of Pesach. Looking at the Zohar there, the Tikkunei Zohar, it indicates that we will eat matzah for both weeks of Pesach, the first and the second. It brings a remez in the pasuk, matzah yachal shivas yamim. It seems that you could read shivas as shavuos yamim, that we'll eat matzahs for shavuos for 2 weeks, for shavuos yamim. Whether we're going to have the isur chametz for both weeks, I'm not sure. It doesn't say there beferish, but certainly we're going to have 2 weeks of Pesach. So it's called Psachim. He uses this also to explain an interesting thing. You know, we don't say Tachanun for the entire month of Nisan. I was once asked by a Galach, a priest, if he'd studied Judaism. He said, "Is there anything that I don't know that you know about Judaism? I've studied the entire thing. Is there anything that you understand about Judaism that I can't understand as well?" I said, "Yeah, there's one thing you can't understand: the pleasure of not saying Tachanun. That I can't explain to you. We have a whole month of not saying Tachanun. Now we know from it's brought in the Ramah, the reason why we don't say Tachanun the first day is because of the Nesiim, and then there's Yontiv, and then the Beis Yosef says Rov Chodesh, most of the month has gone without Tachanun, so we finish the month with not saying Tachanun as well. We go through the whole Nesiim not saying Tachanun, and no one asks any questions on that or has any problem with that. But the Meiser Akeach says that there's actually more to it, not why we don't say Tachanun even after Pesach. And that is, he says, if you look at the Zohar there, it says that Amalek is going to be destroyed on the 14th of Nisan, on Erev Pesach. When Moshiach comes, Amalek is going to be completely destroyed on Erev Pesach, the 14th of Nisan, so it says in the Zohar. And so the Meiser Akeach says, so if that's the case, So there probably won't be time to build the Beis HaMikdash before Pesach. So it'll be built on Pesach, on Tesvav Nisan, on the 15th of Nisan, first day of Pesach, the Beis HaMikdash will be built. And then there's going to be a Chanukah Zabayis, a celebration of the new Beis HaMikdash. When Shlomo Melech built the first Beis HaMikdash, he had a 7-day Chanukah Zabayis, a celebration for 7 full days. So we'll also have 7 days of celebrating the new Beis HaMikdash built on the first day of Pesach. However, Ein Ma'arvim Simcha B'Simcha, you can't mix Simchas together. So you can't have the celebration on Pesach itself. You have to wait till after Pesach. So after Pesach finishes, there'll be 7 days of celebrating the new Beis HaMikdash. And that will be the second Pesach mentioned in the Zohar, the second 7 days of Pesach that we'll celebrate. So if you work it out, this second week of Pesach, that's Lasid Lava when Moshiach comes, when does it start? It starts on the 8th day, on Aron Shel Pesach, what we have in Chutz La'aretz, Aron Shel Pesach. That will be the first day of the second week, the second Yontiv of Pesach, celebrating Mashiach's arrival, which is another possible reason why Aron Shel Pesach is Meir, the Ur of Mashiach. It's the first day of the second week of a future Yontiv, of Mashiach's Yontiv. And then if you work out the 7 days, so if the Aron Shel Pesach is the first day of the second week of Pesach, what's the last day of the second week? Chof Ches Nissas. None other than the 28th of Nisan itself is the Aron Shel Pesach of the second week of Pesach of Mashiach's Yontiv. I haven't found the Rebbe mentioned this Tikkun HaZayar. Maybe somebody can correct me. But I just imagine if such it says in Tikkun HaZayar. So 30 years ago, it's Chof Ches Nissas, and the Rebbe, who's the Rebbe, for him there's no Golus. He's above Golus. There's no Churban. He's already in Geula. He's already celebrating the second week of Pesach, the Yontiv of Moshiach. But we're not. The rest of us, we're not. We're still in Golus. And so on the Aron Shel Pesach of the second week of Pesach, of Mashiach's Pesach, he turns to us and he says, I've done what I can, but you've got to do it now. It's in your hands now. The first Pesach we all celebrate, because the first Pesach is a Geula that we didn't earn, that was given to us by the Eibishter. The whole Pesach is about the Zroya Natuya. Hashem reached out to us. We were in Memtes Shari Tumah. We were in a low state, but Hashem revealed himself to us. That was Isarusa de Le'ela. That came from above, without our effort, without our deserving it or earning it. That Pesach we have. But the second Pesach, the future Geula, is not that way. The future Geula is one that we earn, that we make it happen. It has to come from us. And so the Rebbe turns to us and says, you have to do all you can to make this happen. He's done all he can, but now it has to come from us. So what does that mean? And what do we have to actually do? So the Rebbe would very often quote Tanya, Perek Lamed Zayin, that says that Yemos Mashiach is Toli in Masenu, V'Avedisenu, Kol Meshach Zman Golus. That Mashiach is dependent on our actions, our behavior, our avodah during Golus. Meaning, Mashiach is not just a reward that comes at the end. You do good, and in the end, there'll be a nice dessert. But your work, the work that you do now, creates Mashiach. This is a chiddush of Tanya, I believe, that it's not just the reward, but the reward itself, the mitzvah creates the reward. Your avodah now creates Mashiach. By doing mitzvahs now, you bring kedusha into the world. That creates the world of Mashiach. That was from Tanya. But the Rebbe took this a step further and said that we have to not just do mitzvahs that will bring Mashiach. We have to actually live Mashiach. Not just do good and Mashiach will come. We have to preempt Mashiach by living in a Geula mentality, a Geula lifestyle, a way of thinking that is Geuladik. And we do that through learning the Torah of Geula, learning what it says in Chazal and in Chassidus, all the way into the Rebbe's Sichas about Geula, learning that, and then applying it now, living it now, even though Geula hasn't completely been revealed in the world, live it as if it has. Live your life as if it has been. So there was just announced there's going to be a big program of learning the Torah of the Rebbe on Geula, and which should be an amazing thing for all of us to take on. But then to apply it to our lives, to the way we live our lives. Let's look at an example of how there's the promises of the Geula and the way the Rebbe uniquely explains them, and then see if we can apply it to daily life, to family life at home. So the Rambam, and at the end of Hilchos Balachim, talking about the times of Moshiach, says that time there'll be no hunger, no war, no jealousy or competition, because good will flow in abundance and all luxuries will be freely available like dust. So the occupation of the entire world will be just to know Hashem. That's all people will be interested in. This is a description of the first stages of Geula. Nothing miraculous has happened, but because abundance is, everything's available, we don't have any material needs, so there'll be no hunger or war, no jealousy, and no competition. So the Rebbe points out in a diak of the Lashonos of the Rambam here that really these feelings of jealousy and competition that lead to war are all actually just psychological. They're in our head. The Rambam says the reason why there'll be no jealousy, why will there be no jealousy and competition when Moshiach comes, is because luxuries will be like dust. What do you mean like dust? We'll have everything we need, and the enjoyments, the luxuries of Gashmias will be insignificant to us. They won't be important to us. These things, they only interest us because we don't have it. We think there's something to it. When Moshiach comes, we'll see there's nothing to Gashmias. It won't interest us in the first place. And so therefore, it's not that there'll be luxuries and therefore we'll be eating luxuries. We'll be having beautiful, big, sumptuous feasts and just enjoying Gashmias. No, it'll all be there, but it'll mean nothing to us. It'll be like dust of the earth. And so it'll just fade into insignificance. We won't be interested in it anymore. So that will be when Gashmias is plenty. At the moment, we live, Baruch Shem, in a very privileged world. And most of us have a lot of luxuries around us, but not everybody. Not everyone has that now. However, we can develop a mindset where those luxuries and that Gashmias is like dust of the earth. It's not important to us because there's something more important, and that is Ladas Hashem, to know Hashem, to be close with Hashem. And this is something that can even be translated to our children. Our kids can get this, maybe even better than us. Imagine this. Imagine your kids are home and having a fight. They're fighting over, it could be a toy or a book that one of them had and the other one wants to use, or maybe it's over a piece of chocolate. Let's make it a piece of chocolate, because that way we have all of the things that the Rambam mentions. We have hunger, we have war, we have jealousy and competition. The kid's saying, I got it first. I'm starving. I'm hungry. I want the chocolate. The other kid says, no, he always gets. It's mine. He's had two already. I want this one. We've got competition, war, hunger. We've got everything happening at once here in the house. So what do we do as a parent facing this? What do we do? So there's the classic way of dealing with it. Take the chocolate away. Neither of you get it. You fight. Neither of you get it. Finished. And then they go both crying and fighting, and it doesn't end very nicely. But then there's a more refined way of doing it. And we're trained in Yiddishkeit and Torah and Mitzvos, so we see this as an opportunity to teach the child. So we say, okay, who's going to have Avos Yisrael? Who's going to have Avos Yisrael and let the other one have the chocolate? And then we might say, and whoever does will get an extra chocolate later. If you let the other one have the chocolate, you get the extra one later. It's like the old marshmallow experiment. Let's see who can have self-control now, and if you do, you'll get reward later. This is very good. This teaches good midas. That you're shifting the child's perspective. Instead of saying like I'm going to win or lose, either I get the chocolate or they get the chocolate. It's fair. It's not fair. So you say no. You have self-control. Let the other one have the chocolate. And you'll have a bit of iskafia now, and you'll get more enjoyment later. You'll defer your gratification to later. That's a very edel thing, and it's a good thing to train kids. But we could take it a step further and deeper than that. I have a very sweet book, a cute little book for the kids. It's called I Can Be Mavater. It's teaching kids to be mavater. Mavater is that untranslatable word. It means to give in, to let the other one enjoy. And it's a little kid's book that has stories of kids being mavater. They're having the fight, they let the other one, and how good it is to be mavater. And the book has in the back little cards called mavater cards. And it says on it, I was mavater. And it suggests that you photocopy these cards, cut them out, and give them to the kids when they're mavater. When they give in and let the other one have, give it to the kids. I've tried it, and it works amazingly. The kids love it. You say to them, "Who's going to get a mavater card?" And it shifts something in them, and they stop and they want the mavater card. Now, these cards are just little photocopied cards that are worth nothing. You can't cash them in anywhere. There's no black market for them where you can exchange them for other things. You just get a card and a little recognition that you're mavater. That's it. And the kids want it. They really want it. So here you've shifted the fight. It's not between a chocolate that I get or a chocolate that they get. It's between, do I want a chocolate or do I want a mitzvah? All you get is the mitzvah. There's no bribing. You just get the card, recognition that you did the mitzvah. And it works. Now, maybe not always, but a lot of the time it works. Kids respond to that. They want to just do the right thing. It's like for that moment, the chocolate is worthless compared to the mitzvah of being mavater, of being mavatal myself, putting myself aside and letting somebody else enjoy. For a moment, it's like dust. The chocolate is like dust for that moment, for that kid. So if we added a Moshiach filter to this entire exchange, instead of a mavater card, call it a Moshiach card. Make them with the kids, Moshiach cards. And instead of telling them the lashonis of Avis Yisrael and mavater, which are also good, but say, who's going to do the Moshiach thing? Who's going to live like Moshiach, where there's no jealousy, where there's no competition, where there's no war and no fighting? Who's going to do the Moshiach thing now? And the kids, if you've spoken about this at the dinner table, if you've gone through what the Rambam says and how the Rebbe explains it, and you've told them how when Mashiach comes, this is how the world's going to be. So then, at that moment, when they're fighting over that toy or chocolate or book or whatever it is, but you say, who's going to do the Mashiach thing? It rings a bell, and they want to do it. They want to do the right thing. For a few seconds, pleasures are like dust. They're worthless. Because you want to do the higher thing. You want to do the Mashiach thing. For those moments, a kid is choosing a lakus over Gashmias. Now, I know that it may not last, but for those moments, it's real. Now, you might be saying you're making competition because one of the kids is going to say, I want the card. Then the other one's left with the chocolate, but they're jealous because they got the card. I didn't do the right thing. They did the right thing. That jealousy is okay. Kina soifrim, that's kind of rachel b'choisa. That's good jealousy. Jealousy of a mitzvah of ma'asim tovim. That's okay. Let them have that one. When Moshiach comes, they'll still be kina soifrim. That type of jealousy is all right. This may seem like a small deal, not a big deal. The kid, for that moment, they got the card. It is a big deal. It's a huge deal. Yes, they might start another fight in a few minutes. Maybe the milchama stop for now, but there'll be a new one. But for those moments, it's precious. It's a moment of Mashiach in your home. The child will remember that forever. They won't remember all the fights, but they'll remember the time that they did the Mashiach thing. And that sets them in a direction that this is how you're supposed to live. And also not so bad is what it does for you as well. Because if your kids can have those Mashiach moments where they do the Mashiach thing, so maybe you also could apply that. You're not fighting over chocolates. You're fighting over very important things. You're not jealous over these little. But still, do you need to be fighting? Do you need to be jealous and envious? Maybe you can also be mavater. Make a little card for yourself as well. Over the last year or so, we've been getting the same message over and over again. There's been Corona. We're told to stay home. Here in Australia, we had bushfires, and we're told to stay indoors, stay home. In US, you had riots on the streets, stay home. The message is over and over, stay home. Go back to your home and bring into your home the light, the energy, the Kedusha. Especially we in Chabad who focus so much on bringing to other people's homes the light of Moshiach and Torah and the Rebbe. We have to do it to our homes as well, to bring it back to our homes. And from this Verbringen, which is happening in your home, you are hosting this Verbringen in your home. So may all our homes get a little bit more of that light, of that May we create in our homes the true Dira, the Dira B'Tachtonim, so we can turn to the Rebbe on Chof Ches Nissas 30 years later and say, yes, we're doing what we can. And our homes are ready. We are ready. May Moshiach come now. L'chaim.